Happy Monday. This is the video for the first text that we're going to be focusing on this week. It's called Labor Unions Protected American Workers After the Great Depression. I'm going to be reading the complete text today and explain the questions. Let's first go and look at our standard focus. So our standard of the day is explain the relationships between individuals and events in a historical text. So we're going to be looking at a nonfiction historical text and looking at the relationships between the different characters in the story, as well as the different events that happen in the story. So again, this is our text, Labor Unions Protected American Workers After the Great Depression. This is a nonfiction text. Labor unions are organizations of workers that bargain with bosses for better working conditions. American workers started joining unions in the late 1800s. Union membership began falling during the Great Depression, though. This was a crushing period of economic hardship. Many businesses lost money and people lost jobs. At one point during the Depression, about 1/3 of the American workforce was unemployed. This was an incredible figure for the U.S., which had enjoyed full employment the decade before. The Great Depression started in 1929 and went on until 1939 when World War II started. So if you look at the relationship between the Great Depression happening and then the union membership, you can see that kind of that connection where once the Great Depression started happening, people stopped joining the union as often, and then people were losing jobs and so on and so forth. So that's how those two events are kind of going together. I'm going to continue reading. The American Federation of Labor, known as AFL, was an organized group of labor unions. The Federation represented many people who worked in crafts and trades. Some examples are mining, carpentry, and steelwork. AFL membership fell to fewer than 3 million during the Depression. Still, widespread money troubles created sympathy for working people. Roosevelt and the labor unions. President Franklin D. Roosevelt was elected in 1932. Soon, government and eventually the courts began to look more favorably on the pleas of labor. In 1932, Congress passed one of the first labor laws that helped workers, the Norris-LaGuardia Act. This law made contracts that said workers could not be in a union unenforceable. Such contracts are known as yellow dog contracts. Norris-LaGuardia also limited the power of federal courts to stop strikes and other job actions. When Roosevelt first took office, he supported important laws that helped the labor's cause. One of these was the National Labor Relations Act of 1935. This was known as the Wagner Act. It gave workers the right to join unions and to bargain together through union representatives. The act established the National Labor Relations Board. This group would punish unfair labor practices. It would also organize elections when employees wanted to form unions. If an employer unjustly fired employees for engaging in union activities, the NLRB could force employers to provide back pay. This meant workers got paychecks that paid for them the time when they were not working due to the firing. Growth in union membership. Trade union membership jumped to almost 9 million by 1940. Larger membership did not come without struggles, though. In 1935, 8 unions within the AFL created the Committee for Industrial Organization, or CIO. The CIO would organize workers in such mass production industries as automobiles and steel. Its supporters wanted to organize all workers at a company at the same time. This meant combining skilled and unskilled labor. The AFL initially did not organize unskilled labor groups. The craft unions that controlled the AFL opposed efforts to unionize or form into unions unskilled and semi-skilled workers. So they didn't want the unskilled and the semi-skilled workers to be in the same union. They preferred that workers remain organized by job function. This meant there were a lot of separate unions. For example, a carpentry union, a union for painters, and a union for electricians. The CIO's forceful drive succeeded in getting many plant workers to unionize. However,